Meditation is so often recommended for anxiety, but the problem is sometimes meditation actually makes things worse. If you've experienced anxiety and you found that meditation has made things worse, perhaps there are some different things that you can approach. Diving in the deep end with meditation isn't always the best starting point. If you've had long-term anxiety, I'm going to go through a range of different options to get going with meditation and avoid the trap of getting caught up with expectations around how you should or shouldn't practice mindfulness. Because trying to do a rigid meditation practice can often massively make anxiety worse and just leads people to give up before they might need to. I'm a registered occupational therapist and I teach people mindfulness and meditation skills every single day. There are things that I've learned over my 10 years in mental health that I recommend to people that I work with all the time that can make the difference between not only tolerating it, but learning to actually benefit from it and be able to do some of the more difficult but useful skills in meditation practices over time. And these are the things that I've learned. Research definitely supports that sometimes meditation can actually make things worse. Often people end up having meditation recommended to them by people that haven't necessarily tried and tested these approaches themselves. And even as a mental health professional, we're sold mindfulness as a strategy. And so without actually practicing it, it's not always easy to communicate these things to people to help. For example, sitting with your eyes closed can just lead to more distress. So a better approach is often stopping and just paying attention to what's going on around. Letting go of expectations of how you should or shouldn't practice these things is also really important. Sometimes I just suggest sitting anywhere, as I am right now in this space here, and just pay attention to what's going on. In this moment, I can pay attention to the sounds around me. I can hear wind, I can hear traffic in the distance. There's no need to close eyes to practice mindfulness at all. And I don't need to be too directive about that practice either. I can sit and reassure myself that there's nothing that I need to do in this moment, apart from just sit and pay attention to what's happening. Ultimately, the end point from an anxiety point of view would be to let go of getting attached to every thought that's driving the distress. In the beginning, the thoughts seem so important, and it's really hard to let them be there without having to change or manage them. A really common trap with meditation is thinking that one has to get rid of these thoughts. That process of trying to get rid of thoughts only exacerbates the problem in the long term. And it leads to more avoidance. And the avoidance could be thinking, the avoidance could be situations, or it might be body sensations. If physical pain is present as well, or if there's trauma, it's often very uncomfortable to be able to pay attention to the sensations in the body. And whilst non-judgmentalness is often mentioned as a skill, the term non-judgmentalness can be very misleading, because the idea that we can not judge our thoughts or be non-judgmental as a human is a little bit contradictory to the wisdom of our own mind, that judgment helps us to determine truth. It helps us to determine whether something is risky. It helps us determine if we've got enough time to cross a road before a car comes. So trying to sift through different thoughts to be non-judgmental about ends up getting very confusing, and it's a distraction from the point, which is thoughts are not ultimate truths. And the more we practice letting go of rating the thoughts themselves as being good or bad, and we simply practice coming back to what's happening in our general experience without trying to change it, the easier it is to be able to allow discomfort and respond to it more thoughtfully. So the goal of getting rid of discomfort is completely counterintuitive for early practices in meditation, But by leaving your eyes open and by trying to pay attention to things in your environment that are more sensory is a much better initial practice in my experience. So from there, with more tolerance, one might be able to gradually start closing eyes and focusing on a sound, but leaving eyes closed. But by then, the practices start to change, because then we're focusing more on concentration and attention rather than just noticing what's going on without becoming reactive to it. So the practices start changing and become more dynamic in that sense. In this video, I've tried to summarize a few of the different traps around practicing anxiety-related meditation and where common failures are. And if these things are of interest, please follow the channel, and I'll be sure to try and upload more and more videos about mental health based on clinical experience and working with hundreds of people over many years in what can and might work better than trying ambient meditations or repetitive binaural entrainment type audio on YouTube that is not clinically informed or trauma informed. So thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.